Hello folks. Okay, boys and girls, time to gather around because it's story time again. Yeah, that's me, kids. Gonna tell a story. Really? Absolutely. Back in the early 1970s, when I lived in the city of New York, I attended college there. And part-time on weekends, I had a job. And the job was, I was a taxi driver. Alright, cut it out. I still was a taxi driver. Had my hack license, authorized by the city of New York to drive a cab, and I did so on weekends. And I drove one of those big yellow checkered cabs. They had that checkered border around it indicating they had more seats in the back than just a regular bench type seat. Oh, I did this for maybe about 6, 8, 9 months. But during that time, I had some pretty interesting things happen. One of them was, it was during rush hour. I had a passenger, and we're going now west on 42nd Street. And we're stopped at the traffic light on 5th and 42nd. Now, you could not make a left turn on 5th per the sign. Well, the passenger says to me, make a left over here. I said, you can't, the sign there, you're not allowed to make a left turn. He says, forget about it, just make the turn, will you? So like an idiot, I made the left turn. And when I made the left turn, do you know what was standing in the middle of the street on the was it 5th Avenue waiting for idiots to make that turn? Was a policeman. Yeah! Pulled me over, gave me a ticket. While he was writing the ticket, the passenger jumped out and ran, and I had to pay for the fare also that was on the meter. Okay, so now I'm driving down the street. Now, New York City, they have a bad habit of double parking cars. And it's against the law, first of all, to double park. Second of all, whether you're double parked or legally parked, you're not supposed to exit or enter the vehicle from the street side of the vehicle. That's a law in the state of New York. Now, I'm barreling down this street, making it past the double parked vehicle and the legally parked car. All of a sudden, as my bumper gets to around where the front door was of the double parked vehicle, the idiot swings open his door, the driver's door. Well, by the time I slammed down the brakes, I also slammed through the door. So I pull it down the block by a fire hydrant where there was an opening. And he comes running down the block with his mother. And they're both yelling at me. We're sick of you taxi cab drivers, the way you run around this city. You smash my door all up. You're gonna pay for it, says they. I'm listening to them. And I said to them, you finished? I said, now come look what your son did with his door to my taxi cab. See the dent over there? It was big. There really was no dent because it had those big bumpers. I said, why did he slam his door into my cab? Then I says to her, listen, lady, it's against the law first to double park, and then it's against the law to exit or enter a vehicle from the street side, just as your son did. Now, would you like to pursue this any further? Because I feel a neck pain in the back of my neck here. And the son grabbed his mother and says, Ma, I think we better leave. So I got back in my cab, and I drove off. But you know something? Let me tell you something. That was in Manhattan. Months later, when I'm in my neighborhood in Brooklyn driving my regular vehicle, I'm driving down the street, once again a double parked car, once again the idiot swings open the door, and once again the door went flying because I knocked it off. Well, I pulled it once again down the block by a fire hydrant, but this time the guy had a policeman with him. I don't know what the police were doing there. So the policeman is there while he and I are arguing, and I went through the same routine. Well, while we're arguing, all of a sudden we hear a ba-boom. We looked up the block. Some huge truck just slammed into his car, made mincemeat out of it. And the police officer went running up the block. I got in my vehicle and just drove off. Okay. So now I got back to cab driving. I'm driving. and I get too close to a parked truck, and the side view mirror just went flying. So all through the night I had to drive without that side view mirror. You don't realize how important that mirror is till you do not have it. Well, at the end of my shift, I pull it into the garages, and I'm pulling it out, pulling it in, and I'm leaving. The garage attendant says to me, "Hey, Tony, what the Hades happened to the mirror?" I said, "The mirror?" I says, "Yeah, let me tell you something. The next time you give me a cab to take out for the night, make sure it has all the mirrors. I had Hades trying to drive without that mirror." You think I was going to take the blame for my stupidity? Well, now, I'm over at Grand Central Station, pick up a passenger, and he says to me, it was a very rainy night that night. He said, "Take me to Kennedy Airport." And he mentioned the terminal, and I forgot the name of it. I had no idea what that terminal was. I mean, I knew the city like the back of my hand, but I never heard of that terminal. He says, "Look, just get me to Kennedy, and I'll direct you." So we get to Kennedy Airport, and he directs me on these roads, and the rain is coming down, torrential rain. And I'm going, he's directing me in places I never knew existed at Kennedy. We even went over a dirt road at Kennedy Airport. Sure. Well, it was a muddy dirt road. Well, finally we're driving, and I slammed on the brake. He says, "What are you stopping here for?" I says, "Are you nuts?" I said, "Look on both sides of the cab. You see those blinking lights?" He says, "Yeah." "We're on a runway." Thank God that was 30 years ago. If that was today, I think we would have been shot up. Anyway, I managed to get out of there. We found this terminal, and he tipped me $20. He's a good fella. Another time, I pick up this guy, forgot where it was in Manhattan, had a thick German accent. We're driving. He says, "Stop at this drugstore, please. I want to get something, and I'll come right out." Well, the drugstore happened to be on the facing Grand Central Station. The front was on the street. The back was an entrance into Grand Central Station. Well, he goes into the drugstore, never came out. I was suckered. He went into Grand Central Station. Once again, I had to pay for the fare on the meter. So I wrote the German embassy a letter. "What's the matter with you and your people? You come in, then you're going to stick me for the fare." Well, about a month later, I get a return from the German, one of the members on the German embassy staff. What a check for the amount of the fare. The guy paid me for it. But he wrote in the letter, and he was right. He says, just because he spoke with a German accent, it didn't mean he was German. He could have been Swiss, he could have been Austrian, and he was right. I felt bad about it. Case to check. All right, folks. I hope you enjoy those stories, boys and girls. Okay. We'll see you. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless the nation you happen to be in. See ya.